Good morning, afternoon, noontime. It's always a question for me what to say, but happy lunching. I hope you have your lunch in front of your screen. We have an exciting guest today. Rebecca's here from the Village, and she's going to be helping us navigate our way through the topic of when is it time to think about maybe letting go of your home aging in place, maybe finding your way into a different type of residential setting. And Rebecca, you and I go way back. Um, but I wonder if you could just to start us off today, just talk a little bit about your career journey with senior services.
Sure. I learned in my master's program that working with seniors was what gave me the most rewarding experience. So I've spent my entire career working somehow with seniors. I started out at HCA as a case manager in their senior healthcare centers, which are local doctors' offices, really focused on providing a great experience that meets the needs of seniors. That was really rewarding. Kind of worked my way to become a director of senior healthcare centers. And then had an opportunity at the Village in senior living, actually, when we were opening a center here to come over and oversee their healthcare services. I had never worked in senior living. It was a little scary for me, but I knew I loved this population. This community had an incredible reputation. So I took a little bit of a leap of faith, came over to the Village, started out overseeing all of their healthcare services. So assisted living, memory care, private duty home care, and then started a vitality program here, like a wellness program focused on seniors. And then 8 years ago, had a chance to become the executive director. And it's a dream job to be able to serve seniors and residents at this stage in their life and not only meet their needs, but also really enrich their lives. So,
And there've been some changes recently at the Village.
yes.
So tell us about that transition and, how that's affected your status and what you've been doing in your new role.
Yeah, so we are really excited. Santa Fe Healthcare made a decision to sell their assets in the Village sometime last year. And so we've been going through that process. We are actually not sold yet, but we expect to be to close the sale at the end of the year. And we are really excited about it. So we are uh, being bought by a private equity firm. We are going to be transitioning from a not-for-profit to a for-profit, which for-profits have a huge place in this industry. And we have some big plans for next year, some growth, some development, some opportunities to serve more seniors and start something with this company in terms of management of senior living that I'm really excited about.
But you're not leaving.
I'm not leaving, no. I'm
And your
here.
team isn't leaving.
No, no, and
Yes.
we've been here probably the average tenure of the leadership team at the Village is probably around 8 years. I mean, we have something really, really special here, and I'm so excited to kinda see where this goes.
And, one of the things, and just for full disclosure to our participants, I do sit on the board. And I've been in that role for like 5 years, I think. So
Mhm.
I've been around a while. And I'll also tell you guys another full disclosure. My grandmother was at the Village for 5 years. So I got pretty intimate. I have a lot of clients. We have a lot of clients that live at the Village. So, just full disclosure, I feel
Absolutely.
pretty lucky to be in the Village fold. But I will also say that the Village is such a unique place. And I heard something about, and you can clarify this, but because the Village doesn't require like a CCRC big chunk payment at the front, it's really like a rental where you rent the room and you also get access to all of the services, including the food services.
Yep.
That is unique in the United
Mhm.
States, is it not?
It is. We are actually one of the largest rental communities for senior living in the United States. We look a lot like a CCRC. Most people think that we are a CCRC. but we're not. There's no buy-in. People can leave as they wish. And it's a rental model, but it's a rental model that comes, like you said, with incredible amenities and access to the community.
And people don't really leave. I mean, I can tell you, it's very rare. I mean, the one situation, and I will say that my grandmother did leave. She needed the highest level of care at the end of her life. She lived to be 102. So from age 95 to 100, she was in, independent living. Then she moved into assisted living. And then when she needed really that highest level of care for the last 2 years of her life, she
Mhm.
ended up at a long-term care nursing home. But we didn't really want to leave.
Yeah. And that's
And
unusual. Most people do get to stay,
right.
you know, so that's unusual that someone
And
would have to leave
and
for.
that was something that you kind of taught me during that experience is most people can actually stay. And the way to do that, if you're in like a memory care unit or you're in assisted living and really the level of care becomes more than what can be provided, you can add in special services. And tell me about that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Sure. So hospice is one service that a lot of folks in memory care, as their care needs increase or they become more limited in their ability to participate in their activities of daily living, hospice is a great additional service to bring in. But then there's also,
And covered by Medicare. So there's no
absolutely,
additional cost for hospice.
yes. Also Medicare certified home health care. So companies like Madeira Care Tenders, Concierge, UF Health, all those home care companies, they can come in and provide services to help you maintain independence, maintain your ability to participate in your activities of daily living. And again, Medicare covers the majority of that. Something that is not covered by Medicare private pay would be private duty home care services. And that's something that the village offers, but you can also get from a third party like Touching Hearts.
And I have a lot of clients who are in the independent living situations and they
Mhm.
love it
Yes.
because they have a beautiful, apartment that's maybe a 2-bedroom apartment and it overlooks like a beautiful lake or whatever whatever floor they're on. And they really don't want to go to assisted living, or they maybe don't want to go to memory care, but they may have chronic healthcare conditions. In those situations, people can still add those services without
Absolutely.
having to transition to the next level of
Absolutely.
care, correct?
We have people that live in independent living that have 24/7 care with them, or as little as a few hours a day just to help support them.
Yeah, so that's something that people maybe don't know. And I know that that's not limited to the village. There are other assisted living facilities or independent living facilities in the Gainesville area that also provide these services. And I know that you're very good about saying, look, if it's not here, if this isn't your speaking your love language, that there may be other places for you to go. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So
Yeah.
let's talk about that. When is it that people should really start to be thinking about making a move? Like what level of comfort, or what I see a lot of when I'm talking to clients who want to age in place, because I can tell you most people will say, I want to live in my house until I die.
Mhm.
And they also want to die in their sleep. And they
Sure.
also make their entire family promise them that they will never put them in a nursing home,
Yeah.
right? So how do we address some of these like huge, it's like the elephant in the room, you know? It's like
Yeah.
this whole thing in people's heads about aging and living in your own home.
Yeah, it's a stigma for sure. And I think the first thing I would do is just encourage folks to be open to explore what's out there. It doesn't just because you visit a place or tour a place, you don't have to move in, but just explore it so you really know your options. I think the more informed you are about all of your options, the better you can come up with a plan. I can tell you that probably the one thing that I hear from our residents in independent living more than anything else is, "I wish I had done this sooner." So, and it's folks making the decision themselves to move in versus having somebody else make it for them. Those are the folks that do the best. The other thing they do is they move in when they're well enough to really take advantage of all that the community has to offer. So they move in when they still, can get around. They move in when they have interests that they want to pursue. I think of a resident. She's a dear, dear lady. She's probably lived here about 8 years. She moved in with her husband, and her husband passed about 5 years ago. And she was so grateful that she moved in and had time to enjoy the community with him here and make friends and connections. So when he passed, she had this whole network of support. We all wrapped our arms around her. She had friends to do that. We were able to do that. And she talks about what that experience would have been like if she were home alone versus being here. So I think one of the first things is just explore your options, look at what's out there. There's incredible options in our community, whether it's senior living or there's options to stay at home and have support at home.
There is aging in place, and we talk a lot about that. What are the options for aging in place? But I think one of the things that can be missing when we age in place, and of course, it depends on your personality. Like,
Mhm,
if you're a social person, something like the village may be much more attractive to you than
mhm,
someone who is, more of an introverted person.
mhm.
They might not really enjoy that whole community situation. But I will tell you this, I have a lot of clients who go to the village or some other placement,
Mhm.
and they're in independent living or they're in assisted living. And there's like this really cool thing that you guys have going there, which is like this little welcoming committee.
Mhm.
Tell us about that. I mean, even in like the cottages, which is an independent living setting, you
Mhm.
still find this welcoming committee. And what is that?
Yeah, so every resident has resident ambassadors. So when a new person moves in, they are there to welcome you. They're there to, show you around, to explain to you how the campus works, to help you make connections, to help you get involved with other friends or neighbors that have the similar interests. We help do that as well, but it's a little bit better when another resident can do that to
Yeah.
kind of give you the real lowdown. And I'll say, Shannon, I was thinking about our talk today, and even if you are an introverted person, I'm more of an introverted person, believe it or not. Even if you're
No
not,
way.
yes, I am. But even if you're not, socially charged, if you're living alone and you're not interacting with other people, it's just not natural. I mean, think about how much in your 40s, 50s, 60s that you're interacting with others, whether it's going to Publix or going to the bank or talking to your neighbors or your family that's around you. We're meant to be social human beings. We're meant to be around other people.
You
And
know, a and the science backs up that statement. I
yes,
mean, there have been studies that show that people who are in a community, they actually live longer,
yes,
healthier, more vibrant lives.
yep,
So, we know that there's something that happens when we're having conversations. Part of the reason that, we're trying to steer children away from being on their computers all the time, because there is something about that social interaction that engages the brain to help create new neural pathways. It's like you learn something from someone and it engages you, and it can be such a benefit. You're absolutely right, even for introverted people.
yep. And
And
you have options. You don't have to be out there doing all
right,
the things. You
right.
can do what you want and stay inside as much as you want. So,
And you guys have an app
mhm,
that allows people to even participate in programming that's available through the, you can go in person to different activities, but you can also sometimes get some exposure through the app. Is that right?
100%. Yeah, and we have an internal like TV station. So you can, if you don't feel like going to exercise class, we can play exercise class on your in-house TV.
Yeah. And sometimes I like today, you guys can see I'm at home. I love my Wednesday remote day. So I get it. Sometimes we just want to stay home, and that's also available. And I know that the food options, although, it's not like all the time that we want people to not participate in going to the restaurants, but there is an option to have your food at home. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can pick up your food to go just like you would from a restaurant, or you can have it delivered. Mhm.
Yeah. And food is such an important issue.
Yep.
Not just because, we know that for example, it's one of the good nutrition is one of the five, really important tools to delay the progression of dementia, for example. We know that healthy eating is so important and nutrition is so important, as well as exercise and, all this other stuff that we're going to probably hit on. But food at the Village is very unique because it is healthy. You have an amazing chef, and there are so many options to how you get fed.
Yeah.
Right? Tell us about that a little bit.
So one of the things that's, really unique about our community and our campus is our size. But with that comes a lot of variety, especially in terms of food. Most communities, you're going to find a dining room and maybe a bistro. But because of our size, we have a lot of different options. When independent living residents move in, they get what we call our culinary cash, which is just dollars that you get to spend down on food. And we have a bistro that proudly serves Starbucks, which I might have actually advocated for personally. But it's just like a great coffee shop. You get a sandwich, a salad, a flatbread. You could get a cup of coffee, a smoothie. We've got a full service dining room that serves more like home style type foods. We've got a fast casual cafe, which is like a Panera, but more elevated, especially at dinner time. We've got a fine dining restaurant. We've got a bar and a marketplace. You can spend your culinary cash on fresh produce, on meats, on staples, but then you can also spend it in the dining room, or you can spend it, for coffee. So it's really, really flexible. Gives people a different experience in the different venues.
So I want to encourage our participants today. I know that you guys are kind of viewing, and maybe you have questions about when is it time. Let's just say hypothetically, Rebecca, you're watching this and you're thinking to yourself, like, I really like, kind of having my own kitchen. I like being able to sleep in the bed that I've slept in for 20 years. I like my neighbors. And I would say the one anchor that I find most common is, what am I going to do with all of my stuff? And the other thing is the idea of reducing your stuff down to be able to live in a 2-bedroom apartment can also be such a challenge. So what do you say to those people that are so attached to their stuff and some of these other issues?
Yeah. That is probably one of the biggest things, hurdles that our residents have to get over. And what I say, I think, is less important than what I hear our residents say. What I
Yeah.
hear our residents say is, as you go through your stuff, you realize that it's just that. It's just stuff.
Mhm.
And it loses, some of the importance or the value that it has, as you get rid of it. We have some residents who have moved in and kept their homes and kind of slowly gone through their things and really felt a sense of freedom to get rid of things. We've had other residents who have moved in and rented 20 storage cages because they didn't want to get rid of their stuff. And we offer those. And then, taking time kind of over the years to slowly transition through things. But what I hear residents most often say is that's one of the hardest things to separate from. But that as they do separate it from it, they really feel a sense of freedom and
Yeah.
recognize that it's just stuff.
And let me just say this, as a child of a mother who was a pack rat of stuff, when my mother died, and my sister and my dad and I spent like so much time going through it and having to like figure out what was the important stuff and what was the stuff that it's okay to let go of. And I still will tell you guys, my mom died in 2004. I still have an entire closet and a whole nother part of my little library set for things that I never look at. It's like I can't part with them because I know that she wouldn't want me to.
Mhm, they were important to her. Yeah.
Right? And so it's like, I wish she had done this like little bit of work ahead of time, because then it's like, then I'm left with like this little area of important things. And so, I'm doing that myself for my own daughters. Like, I really try hard not to keep things that are really only important to me. Maybe I take a picture of them and I have them in like a nice album that I can look at and enjoy myself. But some of these things are important to us. This old pictures of my great great grandfather. But it's important to me, but it may not be as significant to future generations. So, I know that can hurt and sting a
It
little bit
does.
sometimes.
There's companies though that help with this.
Yes.
So they'll help you with the downsizing. They'll help you, figure out what can fit in your new apartment and go through it with you so it can be less stressful.
Yeah. And Lisa Lodell is
Mhm.
amazing. She works really well with people. She also has employees. I haven't worked with anyone else, but with her, our clients, like, they just feel safe. And
Yeah.
she's so gentle with how she goes through it. And she's not going to tell you, you have to get rid of this or you have to get rid of that. She has this really cool little system that she uses. And I'm sure it's the same with other people who
Mhm.
are senior movers. Like, that's going to be the question, is the downsizing and the moving. And the other thing is that a lot of people who engage in that type of work have all these places so that your stuff isn't going to be, thrown away. Like, if it can be used, we're going to take it to the repurpose project, or we're going to take it somewhere where your stuff is going to be used. Maybe right now it's sitting in a closet unused,
Yeah.
and you feel so attached to it because it was such a useful thing to you, but it may be able to be used by somebody else, like the young students who have no money.
Yep.
Like,
But that
does he
makes you
love
feel
that
so
old
much
chair you
better.
have?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Okay. All right. So that's the thing. And then, the other thing that I see a lot of clients really kind of get stuck on is their houses. Like, they've had all their children there, the history of the house. And what I also find is that they are often taken advantage of by different, services that come and say, like, we'll help you fix X, Y, and Z. You need to pay us X amount of dollars up front. And then they never come back, and like getting your, the door that came unhinged in your kitchen fixed just becomes such a like burden, because you can't do it yourself. You can't see as well. Maybe you don't have those skills. Um, what I've also seen, and you can probably talk about this, is when clients move to the village, like, that stuff gets done for them. Um,
Absolutely.
and how do your residents kind of deal with that, I'm sure there's just a sense of relief, but maybe also a sense of guilt that they have left the home where they had their kids and the kids grew up. What tell us about that experience?
Yeah. So I shared earlier that when I hear from residents after they move in, probably about 6 months after they move in, is I wish I had done this sooner. But what we hear from residents when they're first moving in is like, what's one of the reasons that you want to move in? It's so that they don't have the burden of home ownership. We see a lot of folks um, have experiences where they're taken advantage of, or they just can't manage all that it takes to maintain a home, and they want to be able to come here and not have to worry about that. And we probably, just like any other senior living community, there are no maintenance things that residents have to worry about. Housekeeping is taken care of. Your dryer breaks, we're gonna either fix that or get you a new dryer. The microwave doesn't work, we're gonna fix that or get you a new microwave. And that it's like that in all senior living. That's not unique to the village.
But
So
what
all
is unique is this. Let me just say this, and I don't know if you're going to want me to put this on this webinar, Rebecca,
that's okay.
but you fall down and it's very challenging for you to get back up.
Yeah.
And what you might have been had to do out in the world is to call the emergency response team, who comes out, they check you, they see you were okay, you knew you were okay, you just
Mhm.
couldn't get back up. What would happen in that scenario at the village?
Such a good question. So you live in independent living, you fall down. Everybody, when they move in, is given a little button to wear. We call it a personal help button. They can wear it on their wrist or around their neck, wear it in the shower, wear it all over campus. You press that button, and within 4 minutes, a member of our security team who's trained as a first responder will come, do a quick evaluation, make sure it's safe to help you get up, And as long as you can provide support and participate in getting up, we'll help you get up and back to whatever it was that you were doing.
I love that they're trained as a first responder. I didn't even know that. That
Yep.
is so amazing. That is so
Yep.
amazing. And it's like you don't really realize how important that is.
Oh,
I learned this from some clients that we have there. And it used to be such a difficult situation for them. And, then they moved into the village.
yeah.
And it's just like such a relief. It's like such a feeling of like, even for the kids, they're just like so relieved to know that that's what's going to happen. They're not going to have to go to the ER.
No.
They're not going to have an EMT come out and check them. And it's
It's
really,
24 hours a day, and it's really for any urgent need. So we've actually had people press the button because they dropped their remote behind their TV and they couldn't get it. That's okay. We're going to come help you get your remote because I don't want you getting hurt trying to get it.
that
Um,
is awesome.
yeah, I mean, so it really
Yeah.
is like concierge there for urgent needs 24 hours a day.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like you don't even realize that some of these things are available to you until you move there. And
Yeah.
then, I mean, and what I've seen, and I mean, I see this in other facilities too. It's not unique to the village, but people don't realize what kinds of services are provided in a senior living setting. They don't realize, you really don't have to worry about these 17 things that you had to worry about when you were living by yourself. Is the GRU bill right? Did the
Right.
meter, get messed up? It's like all the things about home ownership and paying your own bills, separately that can be such a challenge as we age and as our brains are changing. We know, our financial acuity is at its highest at 57 for women and 55 for men. And it's kind of like a downhill slope from there, despite the
Yeah.
fact that we have lots of brilliant people in their upper 90s who are still managing their finances. Like generally, you are
Mhm.
not going to be as good at doing that stuff as you age. And with the decrease in good eyesight and hearing, we have to be realistic about these things. So it can be a challenge. Okay. We do have a question in the chat, and I'm hoping this is a good question to answer live. Can residents at the village at Gainesville utilize their private duty home care agency to have a caregiver when they move into the village at Gainesville? My mom has had her same caregiver for over 5 years, and we don't want her to be without this person when she moves into your community.
Absolutely. Yes. So you can move in and have your private duty caregiver that's been with you for a long time still be with you. So 100%. Yes.
What is the average age of people moving into the village at this point?
It's 82 is the average age of somebody at move in. And the average age of our residents is 85.
And do you have like a waiting list for all? I know that like the village is so popular that we've kind
Yeah.
of gotten to the point where we are pretty filled up, but are there waiting lists for every type of residential placement that you have?
So right now, there is a waiting list in independent living. There's also a waiting list for assisted living, and there is no waiting list right now for memory support.
Okay.
Um, so what we typically do is encourage folks, especially if there's a need to move in, to move in, because we're going to give priority to our current resident. So move in, and if there's a certain apartment that you wanted or a certain spot that you wanted, first move in, and then that will put you higher on the priority list for getting, whatever your first choice was.
What types of living situations are there? And just generally, and then what are there at the village?
Yeah. So there's three different levels of care: independent living, assisted living, and memory support. And in independent living, we have the cottages, which is really just like a lovely neighborhood. It's great. It's their cottage homes, their 1.5 car garages, gives you a really strong sense of independence, kind of part of the community, but also part of your own little neighborhood. Um, we have people that live in our cottages that are still teaching at Santa Fe College, or working out in the Gainesville area. And then the rest of our independent living neighborhoods are all like 4 or 5 story apartment style buildings. some with interior entrance, some with exterior entrances. And it's very much like apartment style living. And then we have one assisted living neighborhood, which really mirrors a lot what some of our independent living neighborhoods look like. So that transition doesn't feel as much like nursing home or clinically. It really feels just like any of the other independent living buildings. One unique thing about assisted living and memory support, though, is the dining room and a lot of the activity spaces are right there in that building. So it's really convenient for those folks. And then we have two neighborhoods that are for memory support, and those are secured neighborhoods, um, and really specialize in what somebody experiencing dementia needs from a care perspective, as well as helping them live a purposeful life, and supporting them in that way.
And those, I mean, the memory care it feels like assisted living. It's not like you're in like more of a nursing home type setting.
Not at all. It feels very home-like.
Yeah,
One of the neighborhoods actually used to be an assisted living neighborhood, and we transitioned it over to memory care. And the other one, Azalea Trace, has a very home-like setting.
beautiful. It's very
Yeah.
open, the
It's-
atrium. It's just pretty. It's just a pretty setting. I like that atrium.
yeah.
Um, okay. So I want to talk just for a minute about some of the unique things about the village that it's like kind of trying to explain to someone that there's this idea out there, Rebecca. I'm just gonna put you on the spot here. There's
Okay.
this idea, right, that we get smaller as we age. Like we're like the stigma is that we're kind of warehousing people until they die as they enter this like last phase of life.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, the stigma, I see it in the clients that come in, like, don't worry about me, like, I'm okay. They have some chronic health issues that maybe prevent them from being able to travel as much, or maybe prevent them from doing a lot of the activities that they used to be able to do. And what I'm finding more and more, and especially as we're starting to see the baby boomers enter the fray, is people don't want that anymore. They want to become bigger as they age. They
Yeah.
want their lives to be more vibrant. And I see the village as a tool towards that end, right?
Yeah.
So like, I know when I go and speak at the village and I'm talking about like, neuroplasticity and getting your brain to work, do more, like learn more stuff, create new activities, participate in something new. I see the village really supporting that vibrancy. And that it's like, it's hard to explain to somebody, but one of the things that I know that has happened at the village, and I know this because one of my really dear friends, he's part of this, and it's the bluebirds, the
Yes.
bird houses, right? So tell us about that program,
Yeah.
and I just want people to understand like the kinds of things that happen at the village.
Oh, yeah. I'm so glad that you brought this up because it really is incredibly cool. I'll talk about the bluebirds, but first I want to talk about one of our residents who had never painted before, had never done anything in the arts before. She was a mom, she was a wife, she raised her children, she was, dedicated to her spouse. She's a great cook, but she had never painted. And just on a whim, she was like, well, they're offering a painting class. Maybe a friend was going, I don't know, but she took the painting class. And she's probably one of our most active painters now. I mean, it is like, this is something that she never learned until she was like 84. And now actually, I've got one of her paintings in my office. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
it's amazing. So, um, we have another resident who had never been to Disney World. And we travel, like we've done cruises, we've done, river cruises, big cruises, we've gone to the mountains, we go to Disney World. Her
Wow.
first trip to Disney was with us. I mean,
Oh
like
my
that
God.
is so incredibly special. Um, so there's so much life to be lived here and in other communities, and there's an opportunity to do things that Gail, who went to Disney, she would have never gone to Disney like that. That just, and it's not because she couldn't afford to, but it just wasn't in the cards for
Yeah.
her. And I don't know that our painter lady ever would have painted. I mean, there's opportunities to learn new things, which is so important for our brains, right?
Yes.
Learning, like continual learners. So there's
Yeah.
opportunities to learn new things. but then also to tap into things that you haven't done in a while. So Alan and the Bluebirds, he had this incredible idea. He's a nature enthusiast, such a interesting guy, and wanted to help kind of expand the bluebird population on our campus, and had this idea to put bluebird homes kind of, there's a proper spacing that has to be done and all kinds of cool stuff all over campus. I want to say, I don't know if I'm 100% right on this, but I want to say he worked with our wood shop to build bluebird boxes.
Did.
Yeah,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
we have a resident run wood shop. Another cool thing that people have never participated in that have come here. Oh my gosh, you have a wood shop? I've always wondered. Great, come do it. And this stuff, it's not like you have to pay for it. I mean, you've never done wood shopping, you've never done painting, you want to try it? Let's go try it. So partnered with the wood shop. The wood shop builds the boxes, and he helps install them and monitor them all over campus. And it's just so cool.
And I mean, I know the other thing, just because Alan told me this, he's like, the population has consistently increased,
Yes.
and they're actually counting. So they actually go in and count the number of eggs that are laid every year,
Mhm.
and they give that information back to, I guess, Game and Fish or someone
Mhm.
who monitors this
Right.
thing, so that they're actually engaged in improving the population of bluebirds in the state of Florida.
Yep.
So
We have
like,
another resident, Shannon, who,
tell me.
we've got a beehive here now. In
Right.
Gary, right?
Yes.
So like we never had bees. So we've got a beehive, residents help maintain it. We got honey from it last year, and they like sold the honey to raise money for something. I mean, it's just so cool.
Yeah.
It's just
That's the
really
thing. I mean, and back to this bigger discussion that you and I were having before we even started, like, there is a way to live a more vibrant life as we get older. And, I know one of the things I was just doing a seminar yesterday and talking about, this like disassociation with our bodies when we don't feel good. So when we have pain and we start to figure out that, hey, if I disconnect from my body, I maybe won't be feeling this pain as much,
yeah.
So as we age, we start to feel more chronic pain. There's like things that just happen naturally because we're aging. And so how do we get back to not doing that? And how do we keep our brains growing? And what are some of the things that we need to add into life to make it really amazing at the end,
Yeah.
Because it's like this whole idea historically in like the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s about just putting people in nursing homes until they die. I do a lot of work in nursing homes. Sometimes it's the only placement for some people, but it's not typical. It's really not. So,
No, it really isn't.
yeah.
And this really isn't about closing your final years out quietly. It's about living your final years out until it, is time for the end. But there's so much life to be had. And that's why, what I really encourage is, even if you thought your whole life that was never for you, just explore it so that
Yeah.
if your decision is to stay at home, I mean, that's not a bad decision. It's a great decision for a lot of folks, but at least you'll be well informed about what your options are, and you can make a really good informed decision.
Yeah. And I mean, even if your decision is, I want to age in place,
Mhm,
and you can afford it because aging in place is incredibly expensive.
mhm.
So, let's say that's your option and then you can afford it. There are plenty of senior activities in our community in Gainesville that can also be available to you. The senior center is amazing, but also the village opens its doors to the general community for a lot of things. Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we have events all the time, some just for our residents, but also for the greater community, educational events, fun events. We also trialed last year, and we're still kind of trialing it, a club membership. So much like you belong to a country club and you pay a monthly fee and you can go there and play tennis or play golf or whatever, eat at the dining rooms, we have a similar program here. So maybe you want to kind of test out the village, or maybe staying at home is the right thing, but you want to still have some social interaction and engagement. We have opportunities here to join our club membership, and you get to eat in our dining rooms. You get to participate in a certain number of activities, attend fitness classes, all
Yeah,
kinds of different things.
it's great.
Yep.
Okay, a couple more questions that I know that people have. We actually have a new question here. Oh, it's Christina Ramus is just saying, we love the village, appreciate their thoughtful leadership, kind and caring staff, and their wonderful residents. Their residents are thriving at the village. Thanks, Christina.
We love touching hearts too.
Yes, they're amazing. Okay, so a lot of times clients are like, well, what happens when my family comes into town? And normally they would come and stay with me. What happens in those situations at the village?
Yeah, we love having families here. So we've got guest apartments right on campus. So residents, if they want their loved one to be close, but not necessarily in their apartment, they can stay in a guest apartment. We'll also do cots or set up extra beds in your apartment if that's what you want. And then one of the other great things is the dining program that we have and the culinary cash dollars. You can use that for yourself or your friends and family. So your friends and family can come and you can treat them to dinner. Um, and the dining rooms, I mean, it's like a real restaurant experience. So, it's not like a nursing home dining room. I mean, you're
No,
ordering
it's
off
not.
to chef
And I
special.
highly recommend the scallops if they're on the menu.
Yes.
They are so good.
Yeah. So we love having families here.
Okay. And okay, I know like for our clients in the life care planning model, sometimes there's like a need for like a tryout, like a respite, or what other options are there for people to come and just try things out?
Yeah. So our occupancy is really high right now. So
Okay.
we don't, we might offer like a weekend stay to somebody,
Okay.
so they can come and stay for a weekend. Um, but in assisted living and independent living, because we're, occupied
Well,
really highly and we've got wait lists, we don't do that as much. In
okay.
memory care, however, we do offer like day services. So it's been a great
Oh,
way for people to transition into the community for memory care. So if you are caring for somebody experiencing dementia and you want some respite during the day, you can leave your loved one with us in our day program. Yep.
I
And
didn't know you guys had that. Oh my
yep.
God, that's
It can
amazing.
be a few hours, it can be a full day. It's a great way for our staff to get to know your loved one, but also for your loved one to feel comfortable in our community, especially if you think long term you're going to want to make a change. So that's been a popular way for people to kind of dip their toe in the water and transition in a loved one in particular.
That's amazing. I
Yeah,
love that. I love that because I know for our clients that are like coming in and they're, typically it's the decline of the caregiver. So you may have a
yeah,
couple and we have a situation right now, in fact, where the husband now has terminal cancer, but he's been taking care of the wife who has dementia. And so like it's been working okay, but now he's, getting his own treatments and he really can't do that job. Well, what happened was they both went down,
yeah.
ended up in the hospital at the same time.
Gosh,
Both ended up in this, of course they ended up in the same rehab. These are like the couple themselves are like super in love and just adorable together. And
yeah,
yet we kind of know like this just model isn't working for them anymore, you know? And it might be okay for them to go back home for a little while he's kind of working through his own health issues. But what do we do with her when he's not well and the kids are trying as much as they can, but they have jobs and families. So,
yeah.
like, having an option for something like a day treatment for her might do the trick to give them a little more time at home together.
Yep.
So that's
The
a
other thing we
great,
do, Shannon, which is really
yeah,
great because
tell
we
me.
have a lot of couples that move in where you have kind of a well spouse and then a spouse that has a chronic medical condition, and one is the caretaker. So when those residents move in and they move into independent living typically to start, but let's say the well spouse at 2 o'clock in the morning has a fall or is having chest pain and needs to get sent out, we create emergency placement plans for those folks. So
Wow.
that well spouse, unexpectedly has to go to the hospital. We're going to take that spouse that has a chronic medical condition or needs help and supervision, even in
Yeah.
the middle of the night. We've got a rooms reserved and a Azalea Trace to move them to, so they're safe and cared for and have supervision. And then the next day, we'll start home care services in place. either, wherever they are in the respite room or back in their apartment, whatever's best for the resident or whatever what's set up ahead of time. So
That's
I
amazing.
think one of the things, I've talked about what I hear residents say before move in and at move in, but one of the things that's so important to family members is the peace of mind that we offer the adult children.
Yes.
That's what we hear most often from families is I can go to sleep at night now and I can rest and I know that mom's being going to be even in independent living. I know that mom has people around her and systems in place to make sure that if she does need something, somebody can be there.
And you guys, I hate to break this to you, but our parents do not want us telling them what to do.
No.
And it's so funny. I'm an elder law attorney. I always use my dad as an example. Like, he does not want me telling him what to do. Like, he may do 1 out of the 5 things that I recommend as an elder law attorney.
Right.
But for the most part, he's like, I don't know if you know what you're talking about. So my point is, like, sometimes if you can get them to that tour at the facility, whether it's the village or somewhere else,
Mhm.
someone else explaining to your parents, not you, actually gets in there a little deeper. And I have had this experience with our clients on a regular basis where the mom comes in, I'm meeting with mom, the child may be there, and we're talking about things. And the mom's like, that sounds great. And the child's like, I've been telling you to do that for 7 years.
Yep. That's another great point though, Shannon, is think about your resources to help you get your parents, if you're an adult child, to this decision. It's not just on you. Use the
Right.
community, but use your
Right.
elder law attorney, use your primary care physician, use friends
Because there's
and
some
neighbors that might be at the community.
Yeah, because there's something about, like, they raised you and they've been the ones to take care and make everyone safe, right?
Yeah,
And now when you're, like, switching the script, it feels very uncomfortable for them. Like, they don't wanna be a burden to you. So, it sometimes takes that third party kind of saying, "Hey, this is an option," for them to get there. And don't feel bad about it. It's so common.
yeah, oh, for sure.
Norm. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, I know I really don't wanna take your abuse the privilege of having you with us today, but the reason that, honestly, a lot of the reason that I decided to join the found basically to work with the village, on the board was because of you, Rebecca. I mean, you are such an amazing person. You're such just a stalwart in our community. And I just so appreciate you taking the time to chat with us all this time and just all the great work that you do. And there is a reason that you are so loved at the village. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I would say the exact same thing to you. You do such important work for
Thank you.
seniors all across the state of Florida. And I'm so grateful to know you and to have a partnership with you at the village. So thank you, Shannon, for all
Lovely.
that you
It's
do.
lovely. Okay, you guys, so that is it. I don't know, May, if you want to talk about our next webinar coming up. I don't remember what it is, so if you are handy and can do that before we sign off, that would be amazing. But otherwise, you guys know where to find us. We are the Miller Elder Law Firm, and we do webinars about twice a month. What do we have coming up, May?
Yeah, so we do have our What is Life Care Planning webinar that's coming up the January 29th, same time at 12 to 1. I'll be sending up a newsletter and to have the events that are coming up. And just as a reminder as well, I will be sending out the video, the recording of this 24 hours after. So you'll get it tomorrow as well.
And you guys, then it's like on our YouTube channel and it's accessible. So if you know anybody who wants to learn more about the village or learn about when is it time, please share the video, or you can always send them to our YouTube channel. We also have all of our webinars on our web page. Okay. Thank you so much, Rebecca. I hope you have an
Thank
amazing day.
you.
Stay warm.
You too.
All right.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.